I had 3 minutes to choose: marry the devil or rot in prison for a crime I didn't commit. Olivia Chen never imagined her stepsister's engagement party would end with a mafia boss cornering her in a private study, offering marriage as the price of freedom. She'd spent years being invisible, serving drinks to people who looked through her like glass. But Dante Moretti saw everything, including the trap closing around her neck. One choice: 3 minutes. A wedding ring or handcuffs. Follow this story to the very end, hit like, and comment your city so I can see how far Olivia's journey travels. The champagne flutes trembled on Olivia's silver tray as she navigated through the glittering crowd in the Ashford Hotel ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across designer gowns and tailored suits, illuminating a world where she existed only as a background, a shadow meant to serve, never to be seen. "More champagne!" a woman in emerald silk demanded without looking at her. "Of course." Olivia's voice emerged soft, practiced in its invisibility. This was her life. Had been for 6 years since her father died and left her at the mercy of Victoria Chen, the stepmother who wore grief like a designer accessory and wielded cruelty like a scalpel. Precise. Calculated. Always leaving marks where they wouldn't show. Tonight's engagement party celebrated Isabel, Victoria's daughter, and her upcoming marriage to Marcus Rothwell. Old money, political connections, the kind of alliance that made Victoria's eyes gleam with satisfaction. The ballroom overflowed with San Francisco's elite, each guest representing another rung on Victoria's social ladder. Olivia refilled glasses, cleared plates, and perfected the art of being nothing. "Did you see Isabel's ring?" someone whispered near the dessert table. 8 carats. Flawless. Her dress is Valentino. Custom. Well, Victoria certainly knows how to make an impression. Olivia moved past them, invisible as air. She'd grown skilled at hearing without listening, seeing without watching. It was safer that way. Safer to be the girl who served drinks and disappeared into the kitchen, who slept in the converted storage room on the 3rd floor, who understood her place in the carefully constructed hierarchy of the Chen household. Her father would have hated this. James Chen had been gentle, devoted, perhaps too trusting when he'd married Victoria 2 years before his heart attack. He'd believed in second chances, in love finding you when you least expected it. He'd had no idea he was inviting a viper into their home. "Olivia!" Victoria's voice cut through the ambient conversation like a blade. "The senator's wife needs her wine refreshed. Now!" "Yes, Victoria. Never mother. Never mom. Just Victoria, because that's what she'd insisted on from the beginning, as if the word itself would contaminate her somehow. Olivia moved toward Senator Morrison's table, tray balanced perfectly. Her black serving dress, too tight in the shoulders, too loose at the waist, a cast-off from one of Isabel's cleaning purges, marking her as staff among the glittering guests. She was pouring Chateau Margaux when she felt it. A shift in the room's energy, subtle as a temperature drop. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they changed quality, becoming more careful, more conscious. Olivia glanced up from the wine bottle. The crowd near the entrance had parted like water. He stood in the doorway, and Olivia understood immediately why silence followed him like a shadow. Dante Moretti didn't demand attention. He consumed it. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than everything Olivia had ever owned combined, he surveyed the ballroom with the casual authority of a predator assessing prey. His face was all sharp angles and dangerous beauty, strong jaw, prominent cheekbones, dark eyes that missed nothing. His black hair was swept back, revealing a face too intense to be conventionally handsome, too compelling to look away from. Olivia had heard the name whispered in corners, spoken in hushed tones when Victoria thought she wasn't listening. Dante Moretti. The North Beach King. The man who controlled everything that mattered in San Francisco's underworld, docks, construction, unions, politicians. The man even senators feared. "Jesus," someone breathed nearby. "What's he doing here?" Olivia's hand trembled. Wine splashed against the rim of the glass. "Steady," Senator Morrison murmured, but he wasn't looking at her. No one was. Every eye had tracked Dante's entrance, except his. Dante Moretti's gaze swept the ballroom and stopped, impossibly, inexplicably, on Olivia. The wine bottle nearly slipped from her fingers. His eyes were dark, almost black in the chandelier light. and they held her with an intensity that made her lungs forget how to work. It lasted only a moment, perhaps 2 seconds, but in that brief connection, Olivia felt seen in a way she hadn't experienced in 6 years. Not invisible, not background. Seen. Then Isabel appeared in a cloud of white silk and expensive perfume, gliding toward Dante with her practiced socialite smile, and the moment shattered. "Mr. Moretti!" Isabel extended her hand like a princess granting favor. "How wonderful that you could attend!" Dante's attention shifted to her, and Olivia discovered she could breathe again. She finished pouring the senator's wife's wine with shaking hands and retreated toward the kitchen, her heart hammering against her ribs for reasons she didn't want to examine. It was nothing, she told herself. A random glance. He was looking at the crowd, not at you, but her hands still trembled. The kitchen was chaos, caterers shouting orders, ovens beeping, champagne being uncorked in rapid succession. Olivia set down her empty tray and pressed her palms against the cool stainless steel counter, trying to steady herself. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Maria, the head caterer, said as she rushed past with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. "I'm fine." "Sure you are. Your stepmother's been watching you like a hawk all night. What did you do?" "Nothing." Which was true. Olivia had perfected the art of doing nothing that could draw Victoria's attention. She kept her head down, her voice soft, her presence minimal. "Well, nothing must be something tonight, because she keeps looking this way." Maria lowered her voice. "And between you and me, I'd stay in here as long as possible. I've seen that look before. Someone's about to get torn apart." Olivia's stomach clenched. She'd seen that look too. Victoria's smile that didn't reach her eyes, the particular tilt of her head that meant she was planning something. Usually something that ended with Olivia losing another piece of her already diminished existence. Through the kitchen's service window, Olivia could see the ballroom. Isabel had claimed Dante's arm, parading him through the crowd like a trophy. He moved through the space with that same predatory grace, shaking hands, exchanging brief words, his expression revealing nothing. Marcus, Isabel's fiancé, looked increasingly uncomfortable, his boyish face tight with something that might have been fear or jealousy. He kept trying to insert himself into conversations between Isabel and Dante, only to be smoothly excluded. "Trouble in paradise," Maria observed, following Olivia's gaze. "The golden boy doesn't like competition." "Mr. Moretti isn't competition," Olivia said quietly. "He's in a completely different category." "Smart girl." Maria grabbed another tray. "Stay smart. Stay invisible. That's how girls like us survive in rooms like that." Girls like us. The ones who served while others celebrated. The ones who cleaned up after parties they'd never be invited to. The ones who understood that some spaces weren't meant for them, no matter how many times they set the tables and poured the wine. An hour passed. Olivia rotated between the kitchen and the ballroom, refreshing drinks, clearing plates, existing in that liminal space between servant and ghost. She'd perfected the ability to move through crowds without disrupting conversations, to anticipate needs before they were voiced, to disappear the moment her task was complete. She was clearing dessert plates from a corner table when Isabel's laugh rang out, too loud, too bright, champagne amplified and brittle around the edges. "Oh, Daddy would have loved you, Mr. Moretti," Isabel was saying, leaning into Dante with practiced intimacy. "He always appreciated powerful men." Something cold slithered down Olivia's spine. Isabel had never called James Chen Daddy when he was alive. She'd barely acknowledged his existence. "Your father?" Dante's voice was deep, controlled, revealing nothing. "James Chen. He passed several years ago. Heart attack." Isabel's hand rested on Dante's arm. "He left Mother quite well off, thankfully. And of course, there's Olivia." Olivia's fingers tightened on the dessert plate. "Olivia?" "My stepsister, the one serving drinks." Isabel's smile could have cut glass. "Poor thing. Daddy left her a small trust, but she's always been more comfortable in the background. Haven't you, Olivia?" Every head at the nearby tables turned. Olivia stood frozen, 3 dirty plates balanced in her hands, suddenly thrust from invisibility into spotlight. Dante's gaze found her again, and this time there was something calculating in his expression, something that made her feel like a puzzle piece he was trying to fit into a larger picture. "Ma'am," Olivia said softly, directing the word at no one in particular, and escaped toward the kitchen. Her hands were shaking again. She set the plates down too hard, earning a sharp look from one of the dishwashers. Breathe, just breathe. But the walls felt too close, the air too thick. Olivia pushed through the service door into the back hallway, seeking quiet, seeking space where she could think. The corridor was blessedly empty, lit by harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look stark and real after the ballroom's golden glow. Olivia leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. Small trust. Isabel had made it sound like charity, like a pittance. In reality, her father had left her a quarter of his estate, enough to pay for college, to build a life, to escape. The trust was supposed to be released to her when she turned 25. 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks until freedom. Unless Victoria found a way to... Hiding? Olivia's eyes snapped open. Dante Moretti stood at the end of the hallway, hands in his pockets, studying her with that same unsettling intensity she'd felt across the ballroom. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her feet had forgotten how to move. "I'm not hiding," she managed. "I needed a moment. From the party or from your family? I should get back to work." "You should stay." It wasn't a request. Dante moved closer, each step deliberate, controlled. "We need to talk." "I don't think..." Olivia Chen. Her name in his mouth sounded different, weighted with knowledge that made her pulse spike. 24 years old, father died 6 years ago, leaving you in the custody of Victoria Chen. You live in the house on Pacific Heights, room 3C, the converted storage space. You have a trust fund worth approximately $2 million, controlled by your stepmother until you turn 25. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. 3 weeks from now. Terror locked her joints. "How do you..." "I make it my business to know things." His voice was conversational, almost gentle, which somehow made it more frightening. "Especially when those things involve people stealing from me." "I don't understand." "No, I don't think you do." Dante reached into his jacket and withdrew a slim folder. "Your stepsister has been embezzling money from my construction company. $250,000 over the past 6 months, filtered through false invoicing and ghost contractors." He opened the folder, revealing spreadsheets, bank statements, transaction records. "She's been very clever about it, professional even, but not quite clever enough." Olivia's brain struggled to process the information. "Isabel, but she doesn't work in construction. She's a socialite. She has access to her fiancé's financial accounts. Marcus Rothwell sits on my company's board. She's been using his credentials to authorize payments to shell companies she controls." Dante's expression remained neutral, almost bored. "The problem is, she's been signing your name to the authorization forms." The hallway tilted. "No," Olivia whispered. "No, I would never..." "I know." The handwriting analysis made that clear. "But the signatures are surprisingly good, and the bank accounts receiving the money? They're in your name. Social security number, address, date of birth, all yours." Dante closed the folder. "By morning, my lawyers will report the fraud to the FBI. You'll be arrested for embezzlement and wire fraud. Federal charges. You're looking at 10 to 15 years minimum." The fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere, music and laughter drifted from the ballroom. Another world, another life, one that was dissolving like smoke. "I didn't do this," Olivia said, and hated how weak her voice sounded. "I've never even seen these accounts. I don't know anything about construction or invoicing or..." "I believe you." The word stopped her spiral. "What?" "I believe you." Dante said it calmly, matter-of-factly. "Isabel's pattern is clear. She's clever, ambitious, and entirely willing to sacrifice you to protect herself. She's probably been planning this for months, waiting until just before your 25th birthday." He paused. "Once you're arrested, Victoria will petition the court to suspend your trust indefinitely, claiming you're unfit to manage the funds. The money becomes hers to control. Possibly forever." Olivia's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, ending up sitting on the cold floor, her black dress pooling around her. This was it. The trap Victoria had been building for 6 years, invisible as spider silk until the moment it closed. All those years of keeping her head down, of being invisible, of surviving, none of it mattered. They'd planned this. Isabel and Victoria had planned to destroy her completely, to take everything her father had left her and leave her rotting in a federal prison. Why are you telling me this? The question came out broken. If you're just going to report it anyway, because I'm not going to report it. Dante crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. I'm going to make you an offer instead. Hope flickered, dangerous and desperate. What kind of offer? Marriage. Olivia laughed. The sound was slightly hysterical, edging toward panic. I'm sorry? I need a wife. You need to not go to prison. Dante's expression remained impassive. We can solve both problems simultaneously. You're insane. I'm practical. He shifted, settling into a more comfortable position, apparently willing to have this conversation in a hotel service corridor. I'm currently in negotiation for a property development deal worth $50 million. The seller is traditional, conservative. He wants to see stability, family values, a man who's settled down. A bachelor with my reputation makes him nervous. Dante's mouth curved, not quite a smile. His concerns aren't entirely unfounded. So find someone else, someone who isn't facing federal prison and who might actually want to marry you. I don't need someone who wants to marry me. I need someone who's motivated to stay married, who won't get complicated ideas about romance or emotions or filing for divorce the moment things become inconvenient. His gaze held hers. I need someone with nowhere else to go. Someone who understands that this is a business arrangement, pure and simple. You need someone desperate. Precisely. Olivia pressed her palms against the floor, trying to ground herself in something solid. And in exchange for this marriage, you don't report the fraud? More than that, I bury the evidence. The account gets closed. The money disappears into one of my legitimate business holdings. The transaction records get lost in a filing error. Isabel walks away clean, which I'm sure will disappoint you, but we both know proving her guilt would require proving your innocence, and that's a legal battle that costs time and money you don't have. What about my trust fund? That becomes part of the marriage arrangement. You gain access to your money immediately, but it gets folded into a joint account we both control. Insurance, to ensure you don't decide to take the money and run. Olivia's mind raced, looking for the trap, the catch, the moment where this stopped being salvation and became something worse. How long would this marriage last? 2 years minimum, long enough to close the property deal and establish credibility. After that, we can divorce quietly. You keep half the assets accumulated during the marriage plus your original trust fund minus whatever you've spent. I get what I need. You get your freedom and your money. Everyone walks away satisfied. Except I'll have been married to a Mafia boss for 2 years. Crime boss is such a limiting term. Dante's voice carried dry humor. I prefer businessman with diverse interests. You're not denying it. Why would I? You already know what I am. He stood, offering her his hand. The question is whether you're smart enough to take the deal. Olivia stared at his extended hand. Strong fingers, expensive watch, no wedding ring. A hand that probably signed death warrants as casually as business contracts. A hand that was offering her a way out of the trap that would otherwise consume her entire life. Why me? She asked. If you just need a wife for business purposes, there are hundreds of women in that ballroom who would marry you for the money and connections alone. Because they would want more. They would expect romance, attention, emotional availability, things I have neither the time nor inclination to provide. Dante's hand remained steady. You know what it's like to be invisible, Olivia. You've spent 6 years perfecting the art of existing in spaces without taking up room. That's exactly what I need. A wife who understands how to maintain appearances in public and stay out of my way in private. No drama, no demands, no delusions about what this is. It should have stung. That assessment of her as someone so accustomed to being nothing that she could continue being nothing in a different context. Instead, it felt like the first honest thing anyone had said to her in years. I need time to think. You have 3 minutes. Dante checked his watch. In 4 minutes, I leave this hotel and contact my lawyers. By morning, federal agents will be at your door. Or, he let the word hang. In 3 minutes, you say yes. We announce our engagement tonight, and this entire problem disappears. Tonight? We can. I've already spoken with Victoria. She's aware of the embezzlement. Though she doesn't know I know it was Isabel. She believes I'm pursuing you romantically, that I've been watching you for weeks and decided you're exactly what I need. Quiet, biddable, easily controlled. His expression hardened. She's already agreed to the match. Quite enthusiastically, actually, once she realized the financial benefits of having me as a son-in-law. Of course, Victoria had agreed. This solved all her problems. Olivia married off to a dangerous man who would control her completely, the embezzlement buried, and Victoria gaining access to Dante Moretti's wealth and power. What about Isabel? She was flirting with you all night. Isabel is marrying Marcus Rothwell in 6 weeks. Her interest in me was purely transactional, gathering information, maintaining connections, possibly setting up her next embezzlement target. Dante's voice carried no judgment, just cold assessment. She's ambitious but short-sighted. Marcus gives her social status. She'll take what she can from him and trade up when a better option appears. And you're just going to let her get away with stealing from you? I'm a businessman, Olivia. Revenge is expensive and rarely profitable. Isabel will destroy herself eventually. Women like her always do. I don't need to waste resources accelerating the process. Olivia's brain cataloged everything she knew about Dante Moretti, which wasn't much beyond rumors and whispers. He was dangerous. He was powerful. He controlled half of San Francisco's underground economy. He was ruthless. But he'd come to her with the truth instead of letting her get arrested. He'd offered a choice, however brutal, instead of simply letting the consequences fall. And the alternative was prison, federal prison, for a crime she didn't commit, while Victoria and Isabel divided her inheritance and forgot she'd ever existed. 2 years, Olivia said slowly. And then I'm free? Completely free? Completely free. With money, a clean record, and enough distance from your stepfamily to build whatever life you want. She thought of her father, who'd taught her to play chess on Sunday afternoons, who'd believed in strategic thinking over emotional reactions. Sometimes the only winning move is accepting the loss of a piece to protect the king, he used to say. In this scenario, her freedom was the king. Everything else, pride, fear, the fantasy of a normal life, those were pawns. Olivia took Dante's hand. His grip was firm, warm, pulling her to her feet with effortless strength. She stood in her too-tight dress, her minimal makeup, her invisible armor, and met the eyes of the most dangerous man in San Francisco. Yes, she said. I'll marry you. Something flickered in Dante's expression, satisfaction, perhaps, or approval. It vanished before she could identify it. Smart choice. He released her hand and straightened his jacket. Now we announce it. Wait, right now? But I look like... You look fine. Dante's gaze swept over her with professional detachment. Actually, you look perfect. The struggling stepdaughter swept off her feet by the powerful older man who sees her worth when no one else does. His mouth curved into something that might have been amusement. Very Cinderella. The guests will eat it up. I need a minute. I can't just... Olivia. He stepped closer, and his voice dropped to something almost gentle. Almost. If you walk into that ballroom on my arm, Victoria and Isabel lose. Every year they've spent making you invisible, every humiliation, every moment they made you feel like nothing, it ends tonight. You become the most important person in that room because you'll be mine. He paused. Don't you want to see their faces when they realize they lost? Yes. The word burned through her chest with surprising ferocity. Yes, she wanted to see Victoria's calculated composure crack. Yes, she wanted to watch Isabel's smile falter. Yes, she wanted to stop being invisible, even if visibility came with a different kind of cage. Okay. Olivia smoothed down her dress, lifted her chin. Let's go. Dante offered his arm, and she took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath expensive fabric, the latent power in his casual stance. They walked down the service corridor together, their footsteps echoing in the fluorescent quiet. At the door to the ballroom, Dante paused. One more thing, he said. From this moment forward, you speak only to me about anything important. Not Victoria, not Isabel, not lawyers or friends or anyone else. Everything goes through me first. Understood? It should have felt like a collar. Instead, it felt like armor. Understood. Good. Dante pushed open the door. The ballroom's golden light spilled over them as they entered, and Olivia felt every head turn, every conversation pause. Dante Moretti had returned from wherever he'd disappeared to, and he'd brought the invisible girl with him. They moved through the crowd together, Dante's hand warm on her arm, guiding her toward the raised platform where the band played. Olivia caught glimpses of faces as they passed. Shock, confusion, calculation. She saw Maria in the serving station, eyes wide with concern. She saw Marcus Rothwell, pale and sweating, clearly recognizing that something had shifted in a direction he didn't understand. And she saw Victoria, standing near the champagne fountain with Isabel, both of them smiling that same predatory smile. They thought they'd won. They thought Dante was playing into their plan. They had no idea what was coming. Dante signaled the band leader, who stopped mid-song. The music died. 300 guests turned to stare. "Good evening," Dante said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the ballroom. "I apologize for the interruption, but I have an announcement that can't wait." Isabel's smile widened. She thought this was about her engagement, about celebrating her upcoming marriage to Marcus. Dante's arm tightened slightly on Olivia's. "I've come here tonight to celebrate not just Isabel and Marcus's engagement, but to share news of my own." He paused, let the silence build. "Olivia Chen has agreed to become my wife." The silence shattered into chaos, gasps, whispers. Isabel's face went white, then red. Marcus looked like he might be sick. Victoria's smile froze into something terrible and sharp. Olivia stood perfectly still, every muscle locked, feeling like she might shatter if she moved. Dante turned to her, and for the benefit of their audience, he smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine and completely false. "I know this seems sudden," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "But when you find the right person, why wait?" He leaned in, and Olivia realized a second too late what he intended. His kiss was brief, chaste, entirely for show, but his lips were warm against hers, and his hand cradled the back of her head with surprising gentleness. And for just a moment, Olivia forgot about the audience, the lies, the transaction that had brought them to this point. When he pulled back, the ballroom erupted in applause. Forced, uncertain applause, but applause nonetheless. Victoria appeared beside them, her smile rigid as porcelain. "Mr. Moretti, how unexpected." Her eyes cut to Olivia with naked hatred. "Olivia, darling, you should have told me you were seeing someone." "It happened rather quickly," Dante said smoothly. "I hope you'll forgive the surprise. I couldn't wait any longer to make Olivia mine." The possessive phrase should have made Olivia flinch. Instead, she felt something settle in her chest. Not comfort exactly, but certainty. She'd made her choice. For better or worse, her life had changed irrevocably in the space of a 3-minute conversation. "How wonderful," Isabel said, joining them. Her voice dripped honey and poison. "Olivia, I had no idea you'd been keeping secrets." "Neither did I," Olivia said quietly. And then, because some reckless part of her couldn't resist, "But I suppose everyone has secrets, don't they?" Isabel's smile sharpened. "I suppose they do." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Guests approached to offer congratulations that ranged from genuine to venomous. Olivia shook hands, accepted embraces, and played the role of blushing bride-to-be while Dante stood beside her like a wall of controlled power, deflecting questions and managing conversations with practiced ease. Around 11, Dante leaned close and murmured, "We're leaving. Say goodbye to your stepmother." Olivia found Victoria near the champagne fountain, her expression carved from ice. "I need to speak with you," Victoria said. "Privately." "No," Dante said, appearing beside Olivia. "Anything you need to say can be said to both of us." Victoria's jaw clenched. "This is family business." "Olivia is about to become my family. That makes it my business too." Dante's voice remained pleasant, but steel ran underneath. "If you have concerns about the wedding arrangements, my assistant will contact you Monday morning. Otherwise, I suggest we all enjoy what remains of the evening." He guided Olivia away before Victoria could respond, his hand firm on the small of her back. They left through the main entrance, and a black Mercedes waited at the curb. Sleek, expensive, windows tinted dark enough to hide anything. A driver opened the rear door. Olivia hesitated. This was it. The moment where the fairy tale ended and reality began. She was about to get into a car with a man she didn't know, a man who controlled criminal empires and bent the city to his will. Having second thoughts? Dante asked. Olivia thought about her storage room bedroom, about 6 more years of invisibility and cruelty, about federal prison and Victoria's triumph. No, she said, and got into the car. Dante slid in beside her and the driver closed the door, sealing them into leather-scented darkness. The engine purred to life. Through the tinted windows, Olivia watched the Ashford Hotel recede, taking with it everything she'd known. "Where are we going?" she asked. "My apartment. Pacific Heights. Ironically, just 3 blocks from Victoria's house." Dante settled back against the seat. "You'll stay there until the wedding. We'll marry next week. Small ceremony, immediate family only. Victoria will protest the speed, but she'll comply." "How can you be sure?" "Because I've already had my lawyers draw up a prenuptial agreement that's very generous to your stepmother, provided she cooperates fully with wedding preparations and doesn't create difficulties." Dante glanced at her. "Victoria is many things, but she's not stupid. She knows better than to antagonize me." Olivia watched San Francisco slide past the windows. Her city, familiar and strange all at once. "What happens after the wedding?" "We live as husband and wife. You'll have your own room, your own space. I travel frequently for business, so you'll spend considerable time alone. When I'm in town, we'll maintain appearances, dinners together, public events, the occasional social function. You'll have an allowance, credit cards, access to everything you need." "And what do you need from me?" "Exactly what I said. A wife who understands her place. Someone who can smile for cameras and stay quiet in private. Someone who won't ask questions about my business or demand explanations for where I go and what I do." He turned to face her fully. "Can you do that, Olivia? Can you be invisible when it matters?" The question should have hurt. Instead, it felt like coming home. "Yes," she said. "I can do that." Dante nodded, satisfied. "Then we'll get along fine." The car pulled up to a high-rise building, all glass and steel and discreet security. The driver opened Olivia's door, and she stepped out into the cool San Francisco night, looking up at what would become her new cage. It was beautiful, expensive, nothing like the converted storage room she'd left behind, but it was still a cage. "Come on," Dante said, offering his hand again. "Let me show you your new home." Olivia took his hand and let him lead her inside, into the marble lobby, into the private elevator that required a key card to access the penthouse level. The doors closed, and in the polished reflection Olivia saw herself. Small, underfed, wearing a dress that didn't fit, and a future that terrified her. But beside her stood Dante Moretti, powerful and dangerous and utterly certain. She'd made her choice. In 3 minutes, standing in a service corridor with nowhere else to run, she'd chosen this man over federal prison. Now she would live with the consequences. The elevator climbed toward the penthouse, toward her wedding, toward a life she couldn't begin to imagine. Olivia watched the floor numbers rise and tried not to think about how far she had to fall. The penthouse occupied the entire 40th floor, a sprawling space of floor-to-ceiling windows that turned San Francisco into a glittering backdrop. Olivia stepped out of the elevator into a world of dark wood, leather furniture, and art that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. "Your room is this way," Dante said, leading her down a hallway lined with abstract paintings. He pushed open a door to reveal a bedroom larger than her entire storage room had been. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in charcoal silk. Glass doors opened onto a private balcony overlooking the bay. "The closet is there." Dante gestured to double doors on the left. "My assistant will have clothes delivered tomorrow. Your measurements will be taken in the morning. Bathroom is through that door. If you need anything tonight, there's a phone on the nightstand. Press 1 for the concierge, 2 for security, 3 for my personal line." Olivia stood in the center of the room, feeling untethered. "Where's your room?" "Other end of the hall. You won't be disturbed." He checked his watch. "It's late. Get some sleep. We have a busy day tomorrow." "Doing what?" "Meeting with my lawyers to finalize the prenuptial agreement. Then the wedding planner, the jeweler for your rings, and dinner with my mother." Olivia's head snapped up. "Your mother?" "She'll want to meet you before the wedding. It's non-negotiable." Dante's expression gave nothing away. Teresa Moretti is traditional. She'll have questions. Answer them honestly but briefly. Don't volunteer information. And don't mention the embezzlement or the arrangement we've made. What am I supposed to say when she asks how we met? Tell her the truth. We met at your stepsister's engagement party. I was captivated. I pursued you. You said yes. He moved toward the door. She doesn't need to know the timeline or the circumstances, just the outcome. And if she doesn't like me, she will. You're exactly what she's been hoping for. Quiet, respectful, from a good family. The fact that you're not involved in my business will please her immensely. Dante paused in the doorway. One more thing. Starting tomorrow, you'll have a security detail. 2 men, rotating shifts. They'll be discreet, but they'll be with you whenever you leave the building. Alarm spiked through Olivia's chest. Why do I need security? Because you're about to become my wife, which makes you a target for anyone who wants leverage against me. The detail is standard procedure. Don't argue about it. His tone left no room for negotiation. Good night, Olivia. The door closed behind him, and Olivia was alone in the most beautiful room she'd ever occupied, wearing a too-tight dress and trying not to think about how completely her life had shifted in the space of 3 hours. She walked to the windows and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Victoria was probably screaming at Isabel, demanding to know what had gone wrong with their plan. Marcus Rothwell was likely drowning his confusion in expensive scotch. And her father's house, the place where Olivia had spent 6 years being invisible, stood 3 blocks away, close enough to see but impossibly distant. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well. Future Mrs. Moretti. We have much to discuss. V. Victoria. Already reaching out, already trying to regain control. Olivia deleted the message and turned off her phone. She explored the bedroom, the bathroom with its marble everything and shower large enough for 4 people, the walk-in closet currently empty except for a white robe hanging on a brass hook, the balcony with its wrought iron furniture and view of the Golden Gate Bridge glowing red in the distance. When she finally crawled into the silk-covered bed, still wearing her serving dress because she had nothing else, Olivia expected to lie awake for hours replaying every moment of the evening. Instead, she fell asleep immediately, exhausted by the weight of choices made and futures altered, and dreamed of nothing at all. Morning arrived with pale sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. Olivia woke disoriented, momentarily unable to place the unfamiliar ceiling, the too soft mattress, the silence that felt wrong after years of Victoria's shouting carrying through thin walls. Then memory crashed back. The engagement party, Dante's offer, the announcement that had detonated her entire existence. She was engaged to a Mafia boss. The absurdity of it should have felt like drowning. Instead, it felt like the first full breath she'd taken in 6 years. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Miss Chen? It's Maria Cortez, Mr. Moretti's assistant. May I come in? Olivia pulled the robe over her dress. Yes. The woman who entered was perhaps 50, with dark hair pulled into an efficient bun and sharp eyes that cataloged everything. She carried a garment bag and a leather portfolio. Good morning. I hope you slept well. Maria's voice was crisp but not unkind. Mister? Moretti has meetings until noon, so we have the morning to get you situated. I've brought clothes for today. We'll do a full wardrobe consultation later this week. First, though, breakfast. The chef has prepared several options since Mr. Moretti wasn't sure of your preferences. I'm not hungry. You need to eat anyway. The schedule today is demanding, and you'll need your strength. Maria hung the garment bag in the closet. Shower, dress, then meet me in the dining room. 20 minutes. She left before Olivia could protest. The shower was an exercise in excess. 6 different shower heads, water pressure that felt like massage. Toiletries that probably cost more than a week's groceries. Olivia stood under the spray and tried to wash away the surreal feeling coating her skin like oil. The garment bag contained a simple navy dress, expensive and perfectly tailored. Somehow it fit exactly right, hugging her thin frame without being tight. Matching shoes, understated jewelry, even undergarments in her size. Dante had said his assistant would handle measurements this morning. Apparently Maria had anticipated the need. The dining room overlooked the city through massive windows. A table that could seat 12 held settings for 1, crystal, china, silver that caught the morning light. The breakfast spread looked like something from a hotel. Fresh fruit, pastries, eggs prepared 3 different ways, coffee that smelled like heaven. Maria appeared from a side door. Sit, eat. We have 45 minutes before the first appointment. This is too much food for one person. The chef doesn't know your appetite yet. Try the fruit at minimum. You're too thin. Maria poured coffee with practiced efficiency. Mr. Moretti mentioned you might have questions about the arrangements. I'm authorized to answer what I can. Olivia sipped the coffee. Dark, rich, nothing like the instant powder Victoria allowed her. What exactly is your job? I manage Mr. Moretti's personal affairs, schedule, correspondence, household staff, event planning. As of this morning, that includes managing your schedule as well. Maria consulted her tablet. Today's appointments, 10 o'clock, prenuptial review with Mr. Moretti's legal team. 11:30, wedding planner. 1 o'clock, lunch with Mr. Moretti. 2 o'clock, jeweler. 4 o'clock, dress fitting. 7 o'clock, dinner with Mrs. Teresa Moretti. That's not a schedule, that's a forced march. Welcome to Mr. Moretti's world. Everything moves quickly because time is money, and delays are expensive. Maria's expression softened slightly. I understand this is overwhelming, but the faster we move through preparations, the faster you can settle into your new routine. Olivia picked at the fruit, her stomach too tight for real appetite. What's his mother like? Direct, traditional, fiercely protective of her son. Maria refilled the coffee cup. She'll ask personal questions. Answer them honestly, but don't elaborate. She's testing you, not interrogating you. Show respect, maintain eye contact, and don't fidget. She interprets nervousness as dishonesty. That's reassuring. Mrs. Moretti raised Dante alone after his father died. She built an empire from nothing to give him opportunities. She's earned the right to be particular about who joins the family. Maria checked her tablet. Finish eating. We need to leave in 20 minutes. The legal offices occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise, all glass walls and nervous associates who scattered when Maria led Olivia through the reception area. They were shown into a conference room where 2 lawyers waited, an older man with silver hair and a younger woman who looked like she survived on coffee and ambition. Miss Chen, the man rose, extending his hand. I'm Richard Walsh, Mr. Moretti's primary counsel. This is Jennifer Park, who specializes in family law. Olivia shook their hands, feeling like a child playing dress-up in adult spaces. Please, sit. Richard gestured to the conference table, where a document approximately 3 inches thick waited. We have the prenuptial agreement ready for your review. I should mention up front that Mr. Moretti has been extraordinarily generous with the terms. Olivia stared at the stack of paper. I don't have a lawyer. We anticipated that. We've prepared a summary of key points, and you're welcome to retain independent counsel for review. However, given the wedding timeline, we'd appreciate your signature today, pending any legal consultation you wish to pursue. The wedding is next week. I don't have time to find a lawyer, and which is why the terms are so favorable to you, Jennifer interrupted smoothly. May I walk you through them? What choice did she have? Olivia nodded. Jennifer opened a tablet, pulling up a simplified version of the document. In brief, you'll receive a monthly allowance of $50,000 for personal expenses. All household costs, security, travel, and approved purchases are separate and unlimited. Upon marriage, your existing trust fund transfers to a joint account accessible to both you and Mr. Moretti, but protected from creditors or business liabilities. In the event of divorce after the 2-year minimum term, you retain your original trust fund plus half of all assets accumulated during the marriage, including property appreciation, investment gains, and business profits from ventures initiated during the marriage term. Olivia's brain struggled to process the numbers. $50,000 a month? Plus bonuses for public appearances, charity events, and family obligations, Richard added. Mr. Moretti understands that your role as his wife involves considerable labor, social performance, image management, representing the family. He believes in compensating that labor fairly. It was more money than Olivia had ever imagined having access to. More than fair. It was staggering. What are the obligations? She asked. Specifically. Jennifer consulted her notes. Maintain primary residence at Mr. Moretti's penthouse or any subsequent properties he designates. Attend designated social functions and family events as his spouse. Maintain public image consistent with the Moretti family reputation. No scandals, no public conflicts, no unauthorized media engagement. Submit to security protocols as determined necessary by Mr. Moretti or his security team, and maintain marital discretion regarding Mr. Moretti's business affairs. Marital discretion, meaning I can't talk about what he does. Correct. Any information you acquire about Mr. Moretti's business operations, associates, or activities is considered privileged and confidential. Violation of confidentiality would constitute breach of contract and nullify the financial provisions. Jennifer's expression remained neutral. This is standard in agreements of this nature. Olivia scanned the summary, looking for the trap. What about fidelity? Are there expectations about other relationships? Richard and Jennifer exchanged glances. Richard cleared his throat. Mr. Moretti expects absolute fidelity from you. His own behavior is not governed by reciprocal requirements, though he's authorized me to assure you he has no intention of conducting extramarital affairs in any manner that would embarrass you publicly. So Dante could do whatever he wanted, while Olivia was expected to remain faithful to a marriage that was pure transaction. The double standard should have outraged her. Instead, it felt oddly honest. He wasn't pretending this was a real marriage, wasn't dressing up the cage as anything other than what it was. Anything else? The agreement includes a non-disparagement clause, Jennifer said. During and after the marriage, you agree not to publicly criticize Mr. Moretti, his family, or his business interests. This includes social media, interviews, books, or any other form of public communication. So I can't tell anyone the truth about this arrangement. You can tell anyone anything you wish in private, Richard clarified, but public disclosure would constitute breach of contract. Mr. Moretti values his privacy and expects you to protect it. Olivia read through the summary again, then flipped through sections of the actual document. The language was dense, legal, designed to protect Dante from every possible angle. But the financial terms were exactly as described, generous to the point of absurdity. I need a pen, she said. You don't want time to review? To consult with... I've reviewed it. I understand the terms. Where do I sign? Jennifer produced a pen. Richard indicated signature lines. Olivia signed her name 23 times, initialing amendments, acknowledging clauses, binding herself to a man she'd known for less than 12 hours. When it was done, Richard gathered the documents with visible satisfaction. Congratulations, Miss Chen. Pending the marriage ceremony, you're now financially secured. Secured. Such a careful word for sold. Maria was waiting in the reception area. How did it go? I signed. Good. We're running late for the wedding planner. The wedding planner operated out of a boutique in Pacific Heights, all white furniture and champagne offered before noon. Cecilia Brennan was whip-thin, immaculately dressed, and spoke in the rapid-fire cadence of someone who billed by the minute. Mr. Moretti has given me full discretion on the ceremony, Cecilia said, spreading fabric samples across her desk. Small, intimate, immediate family only. We're thinking the Rose Garden at the Fairmont, Saturday afternoon, reception dinner for 30 guests at the Grand Ballroom. Classic, elegant, nothing too ostentatious. Saturday? Olivia's voice cracked. This Saturday? 5 days from now, yes. Which gives us almost no time, but Mr. Moretti was very clear about the timeline. Cecilia didn't look up from her swatches. I've already confirmed the venue, booked the photographer, arranged for flowers. Your dress fitting is this afternoon. Vera Wang is preparing 3 options. We'll need your final guest list by tomorrow morning. I don't have a guest list. Family? Friends? Anyone you'd like to attend? Olivia thought of her father, dead 6 years. Her mother, gone even longer. Victoria and Isabel, who would attend because Dante demanded it, who would smile and plot her destruction while champagne flowed. No, she said quietly. No one. Cecilia's expression flickered with something that might have been pity. Then we'll keep it to the Moretti family and your stepmother and stepsister as courtesy invitations. Simple. The lunch with Dante happened at an Italian restaurant that looked unassuming from the outside, but was clearly the kind of place where politicians made deals and money changed hands under tables. The maitre d' seated them immediately at a corner booth, private and positioned to see all exits. Dante wore a charcoal suit, no tie, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread on dangerous elegance. He studied Olivia as she slid into the booth. The dress suits you. Your assistant has good taste. Maria has excellent taste in everything, which is why I pay her extremely well. Dante gestured to the waiter, who appeared instantly. We'll have the chef's tasting menu, and bring a bottle of the Barolo. I don't drink wine at lunch. You do now. You're meeting my mother tonight. Trust me, you'll want the practice. The food arrived in waves. Antipasti, pasta, fish, each course more elaborate than the last. Olivia picked at her portions, too aware of Dante's attention. The lawyer said you signed without negotiation, he said, cutting into his branzino with surgical precision. Why? The terms were fair, better than fair. They were designed to be accepted quickly, but most people negotiate anyway, out of principle if nothing else. He watched her over the rim of his wine glass. You're not most people. I know a good deal when I see one, and I know when I have no leverage to negotiate for better. Smart. Dante set down his glass. Tell me about your father. The question caught her off guard. Why? Because my mother will ask, and I'd like to know the answer first. He leaned back, studying her. James Chen, import-export business, moderately successful, married your mother young. She died when you were 8, cancer, I believe. He raised you alone for 6 years before marrying Victoria. Heart attack took him 2 years later. Am I missing anything? Hearing her father's life reduced to bullet points made Olivia's throat tight. He liked chess. Sunday afternoons, we'd play for hours. He taught me to think 3 moves ahead. Did he win? Always. But he made me work for every piece I took. Olivia took a sip of wine, letting it warm her tongue. He was kind. Too kind, maybe. He believed people were fundamentally good, that they'd show you their best if you gave them the chance. An optimist. A fool, according to Victoria. She said it within a week of his funeral. Dante's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. And yet he married her. He was lonely, and she was very good at pretending to be something she wasn't. Olivia met his eyes. I imagine you understand that skill. I understand it intimately, which is why I'm not pretending with you. Dante signaled for the check. The jeweler is next. You'll need an engagement ring appropriate to your new status. Try to look enthusiastic when he shows you options. The jeweler's private showroom glittered with enough diamonds to blind. Carlo Rossi was elderly, Italian, and clearly on intimate terms with Dante. Ah, the bride! Carlo clasped Olivia's hand between both of his. Bellissima, Dante, you have chosen well. Show her the selection we discussed, Dante said, settling into a velvet chair like a king on a throne. Carlo produced a tray of rings that made Olivia's breath catch. Emerald cut, round, brilliant, oval, pear. Each stone was flawless, massive, worth more than most cars. Try this one. Carlo slipped a ring onto her finger. A round, brilliant diamond, at least 4 carats, set in platinum with smaller diamonds cascading down the band. It was beautiful. It was also a statement, a brand, a visible claim that said property of Dante Moretti in the language of wealth and power. It's too much, Olivia said. It's exactly right. Dante stood, examining her hand. You're my wife. People need to see that immediately. The ring does that job. I prefer something simpler. Your preferences aren't relevant. Try the oval. Carlo switched rings. This one was somehow even larger, the oval diamond catching light and throwing rainbows across the showroom. Olivia looked at Dante. You're seriously going to make me wear a ring that weighs more than my hand? I'm going to make you wear a ring that tells every man in San Francisco you're spoken for. Size matters in that conversation. But something flickered in his expression. If you genuinely hate them all, we'll find something else. It was the first concession he'd offered, small as it was. Olivia turned back to the tray and pointed to a ring in the corner. Princess cut, 3 carats instead of 5, elegant instead of ostentatious. That one. Dante examined it, then nodded to Carlo. We'll take it. Have the wedding bands ready by Friday. Of course, Carlo beamed, already preparing paperwork. As they left the jeweler, Olivia touched the ring on her finger, still too large, still too expensive, but somehow more tolerable than the others. Thank you, she said quietly. Dante glanced at her. For what? For asking if I hated them. Don't mistake pragmatism for kindness. If you'd hated the ring, you'd have looked miserable wearing it, which defeats the purpose. He opened the car door for her. I need you happy, or at least convincingly content. The dress fitting happened at a private atelier where Vera Wang herself waited with 3 gowns that looked like architectural achievements in silk and lace. Olivia stood on a platform while assistants pinned and tucked, transforming her thin frame into something almost bridal. The dress she chose, or rather the dress Dante chose after she'd eliminated the most elaborate option, was deceptively simple. Ivory silk, fitted bodice, flowing skirt, delicate lace cap sleeves. It made her look like someone worth marrying instead of someone being sold. By the time they returned to the penthouse to change for dinner, Olivia's feet ached and her head pounded from too much decision-making about things that didn't actually matter. You have an hour, Dante said, checking his watch. My mother expects us at 7. Don't be late. Olivia retreated to her room and stared at her reflection. The navy dress, the engagement ring, the woman looking back at her with dark circles under her eyes and fear in her expression. In 5 days, she'd be married. In 5 days, there would be no escape route, no second guessing, no way to undo what she'd agreed to in that hotel corridor. Her phone buzzed. She turned it back on that morning and immediately regretted it. 17 missed calls from Victoria. 23 text messages ranging from saccharine congratulations to thinly veiled threats. Olivia deleted them all and got dressed for dinner. Teresa Moretti lived in North Beach in a house that predated most of San Francisco's modern development. 3 stories of Victorian elegance, immaculately maintained, with a garden that spoke of decades of careful attention. A woman answered the door before Dante could knock. She was perhaps 70, small and elegant, with silver hair swept into a bun and eyes that assessed Olivia with surgical precision. Dante. She embraced him, then turned to Olivia. So this is her. Mama, this is Olivia Chen. Olivia, my mother, Teresa Moretti. Mrs. Moretti. Olivia extended her hand. It's an honor to meet you. Teresa ignored the hand and pulled Olivia into an embrace instead, holding her tight enough that Olivia could smell lavender and something baking. Call me Teresa. We're family now. She released Olivia and examined her at arm's length. Too thin. Dante, you're feeding her, yes? She's been with me for 1 day, Mama. Then you have work to do. Come, both of you. Dinner is ready. The dining room was warm, lived in, nothing like the sterile perfection of Dante's penthouse. The table held enough food for 10 people. Pasta, chicken, vegetables, bread still steaming from the oven. Sit, sit, Teresa gestured to chairs. Olivia, you sit beside me. I want to know everything about the woman who caught my impossible son. Dinner became an interrogation disguised as conversation. Teresa asked about Olivia's family, her education, her interests, her plans. Dante sat across from them, eating his mother's cooking and occasionally interjecting when Teresa's questions veered too close to dangerous territory. Your father was in import-export? Teresa asked, passing Olivia more pasta despite her protests. What kind of goods? Textiles, mostly. Silk and cotton from Asia. He had connections in Hong Kong, Taiwan, mainland China. Legitimate business? The question was pointed. Olivia met Teresa's eyes. Completely legitimate. My father was many things, but he wasn't a criminal. And your stepmother? Is a social climber who married my father for his money and has spent the last 6 years making my life difficult. Olivia hadn't meant to be that honest, but something about Teresa's direct gaze made lying feel pointless. Teresa smiled. Good. I appreciate honesty. Dante tells me you met at your stepsister's engagement party? Yes. And he pursued you? Very aggressively. Olivia glanced at Dante, who looked amused. I didn't have much choice in the matter. My son doesn't take no for an answer. Never has. Teresa refilled wine glasses. But he also doesn't commit to anything lightly. If he's chosen you, there's a reason. I'm convenient, Olivia said before she could stop herself. The words hung in the air like smoke. Dante's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on his wine glass. Teresa laughed. Convenient. I like this one, Dante. She has a spine. She has opinions about her own value, Dante said dryly. We're working on adjusting them upward. The rest of dinner passed in stories about Dante's childhood, Teresa's work building the family's construction business into something that could compete with established firms. The difficulties of being Italian in a city that preferred its immigrants invisible. Over dessert, tiramisu that melted on Olivia's tongue, Teresa turned to her with sudden seriousness. My son's world is dangerous. You understand this? Yes. There are people who will smile at you and plot your destruction. People who will use you to hurt him. People who see you as weakness, leverage, a tool to be exploited. Teresa's voice was gentle but implacable. Can you handle that? Can you be strong when strength is required? Olivia thought about Victoria, about Isabel, about 6 years of learning to survive in hostile territory with no allies and no escape. I can handle it, she said. Teresa studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Yes, I believe you can. She stood, beginning to clear plates. Dante, help your mother with dishes. Olivia, you sit. You've had a long day. Dante rose without argument, gathering plates and following his mother into the kitchen. Through the doorway, Olivia could hear them speaking in rapid Italian, too quick for her limited understanding, but she caught certain words. Clever. Stronger than she looks. Afraid but managing it. And Teresa's response? Good, she'll need to be. When they emerged, Teresa embraced Olivia again. Welcome to the family, daughter. Saturday, you become a Moretti. This is not a small thing. Wear the name with pride. In the car on the way back to the penthouse, Olivia stared out the window at North Beach sliding past. Your mother is terrifying, she said finally. Yes. Dante sounded almost proud, but she likes you, which is more than most people can say. She has excellent instincts about character. What did she say to you in the kitchen? That you're smarter than I deserve and I should treat you accordingly. He glanced at her. She's not wrong. Back at the penthouse, Olivia retreated to her room and finally let herself collapse. She kicked off her shoes, pulled off the dress, and lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. In 4 days, she would marry Dante Moretti. In 4 days, she would become someone else entirely. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, lying in the dark of her beautiful bedroom, wearing a ring that cost more than a car, Olivia felt something unexpected. Hope. The next 3 days blurred into an exhausting parade of appointments, fittings, and carefully orchestrated encounters designed to establish Olivia as Dante's acceptable choice. She met his business associates over lunches that felt like auditions, smiled through champagne toasts with people whose names she forgot immediately, and learned to navigate conversations where everything said mattered less than what remained unspoken. Maria managed her schedule with military precision, appearing each morning with a folder detailing the day's obligations. Thursday brought a meeting with Dante's accountant to establish her personal accounts, followed by a session with a stylist who transformed her appearance from invisible to polished. Friday meant final dress alterations, guest confirmation calls, and an excruciating dinner with Victoria and Isabel that Dante insisted was necessary for appearances. Through it all, Olivia saw Dante primarily in public spaces, restaurants, offices, cars traveling between appointments. He was courteous, attentive in ways that suggested genuine care to observers, and utterly professional in private. They existed in separate orbits that intersected only when witnesses required the performance of engagement. Friday evening found Olivia standing in her closet, surrounded by clothes that still didn't feel like hers, trying to choose something appropriate for dinner with the family that had tried to destroy her. Maria had suggested the emerald dress, elegant but not showy, expensive but not ostentatious. Olivia pulled it on and studied herself in the mirror. She looked different. The haircut, the subtle makeup, the clothes that actually fit, they created the illusion of someone who belonged in Dante's world. But beneath the surface, she was still the girl who'd served drinks at Isabel's engagement party, still the daughter James Chen had loved and Victoria had despised. Ready? Dante appeared in her doorway wearing a black suit that made him look even more dangerous than usual. We need to leave in 5 minutes. I'm ready. Olivia grabbed her clutch, another Maria acquisition, and followed him to the elevator. In the car, Dante reviewed the rules. Victoria will try to get you alone. Don't let her. If she asks about the prenuptial agreement, tell her it's confidential. If Isabel makes any comments about the embezzlement, ignore them completely. We're presenting a united front tonight. Happy couple. Looking forward to the wedding. No controversy. And if they push, then I handle it. Your job is to sit there and look content. He glanced at her. Can you do that? I've been playing invisible for 6 years. I think I can manage content for 2 hours. The restaurant was the kind of place Victoria loved. Exclusive, expensive, full of people who mattered. The maitre d' led them to a private room where Victoria and Isabel waited, both dressed like they were attending a funeral instead of a celebratory dinner. Olivia. Victoria's smile was porcelain perfect and completely cold. How lovely you look. Marriage preparations agree with you. Thank you, Victoria. Olivia let Dante pull out her chair, settling beside him with practiced ease. Isabel's gaze fixed on Olivia's engagement ring with undisguised envy. That's quite a stone. Larger than mine, I think. Size isn't everything, Isabel, Dante said smoothly, pouring wine. Though I wanted Olivia to have something worthy of her. The implication hung in the air. Olivia was worthy of more than Isabel would ever receive. Victoria's smile tightened fractionally. How generous of you, Mr. Moretti. Though I must admit this whole situation has been rather surprising. Olivia never mentioned she was seeing anyone. It happened quickly, Dante said. Sometimes you meet someone and simply know. How romantic. Victoria's tone suggested she found it anything but. And the wedding is tomorrow? Such a short engagement. When you're certain, waiting is pointless. Dante's hand found Olivia's under the table, warm and steady. Besides, I'm not a patient man. Dinner arrived. Course after course of food, Olivia barely tasted. Victoria dominated conversation, dropping names and accomplishments, positioning herself as the architect of Isabel's upcoming marriage while subtly diminishing Olivia's presence. Isabel contributed barbed comments disguised as sisterly concern. I do hope you know what you're getting into, Livy, Isabel said, using the childhood nickname like a weapon. Marriage is complicated, especially to someone with Mr. Moretti's reputation. I'm quite aware of my husband's reputation, Olivia said quietly, and I'm confident in my choice. Your husband. Victoria's laugh was brittle. You're not married yet, dear. Anything could happen before tomorrow. Dante's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on Olivia's. Is that a threat, Mrs. Chen? Of course not. Simply an observation that weddings can be unpredictable. Victoria sipped her wine. I do hope you've had time to review all the legal arrangements. Prenuptial agreements can be so complicated. Our legal team handled everything, Dante said. Olivia is well protected. I'm sure she is. Victoria's smile could have cut glass. Though I wonder if she truly understands what she's agreed to. Olivia met her stepmother's eyes across the table. I understand perfectly. I'm marrying a powerful man who sees my value when others chose to ignore it. I'm gaining security, status, and freedom from people who spent years making me feel worthless. She paused. I'd say I understand better than you think. Silence descended. Isabel looked between them, calculating. Victoria's mask finally cracked, showing the rage beneath. You ungrateful little... Careful. Dante's voice was soft, deadly. You're speaking to my future wife. I suggest you choose your next words very carefully. Victoria's jaw clenched. She forced her expression back to neutral, but her hands trembled on her wine glass. Of course. I apologize. Pre-wedding stress makes everyone emotional. The rest of dinner was arctic. They finished dessert in near silence, Victoria and Isabel barely concealing their fury, while Dante maintained casual conversation as if nothing had happened. In the car afterward, Olivia let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. That was a mistake, she said. I shouldn't have said that about them making me feel worthless. Why not? It was true. Because now Victoria knows she got to me. She'll use it. Dante studied her in the dim interior. Let her try. Tomorrow you become a Moretti. Victoria's power over you ends the moment you say your vows. Power doesn't disappear with a name change. No, but protection does come with it. He shifted toward her. Do you know what it means to have my name? What doors close to your enemies the moment you're mine? The possessive language should have bothered her. Instead, it felt like armor. Tell me, Olivia said. It means Victoria can't touch your trust fund because it's now protected by lawyers who make her attorneys look like first-year students. It means Isabel can't frame you for anything because my security team monitors all threats to family members. It means every person in San Francisco who might have ignored you before now treats you with respect because disrespecting my wife is disrespecting me. Dante's voice was calm, factual. You think you're trading one cage for another, but the cage you're entering has better locks, and they're all designed to keep predators out, not you in. Olivia looked at him, this dangerous man who'd offered her salvation wrapped in contract terms and wedding vows. Why are you really doing this? The property deal doesn't require this much effort. You could have found someone easier. Easier isn't always better. That's not an answer. Dante was quiet for a moment, studying her in the passing streetlights. My father died when I was 12. Heart attack, like yours. My mother raised me alone, built a business from nothing because no one else would hire an Italian widow with a kid. She taught me that power isn't about what you take. It's about what you protect. He paused. When I looked into your situation, I saw someone who'd been systematically stripped of everything she should have been protected from. That offended me. So this is charity? This is pragmatism. I needed a wife. You needed rescue. We both get what we want. But something in his expression suggested the calculation went deeper than simple transaction. They arrived at the penthouse to find Maria waiting in the living room with a garment bag and a bottle of champagne. Final preparations, she announced. Miss Chen, your dress is ready. I'll have it in your room. Tomorrow morning, hair and makeup arrive at 8. The car leaves at 10:30. Ceremony begins at 11. That's early for a wedding, Olivia said. Mr. Moretti wants it done before anyone can interfere. Maria's expression was knowing. Smart man. After Maria left, Olivia stood in the living room feeling the weight of tomorrow pressing down. I should sleep, big day and all. Wait. Dante moved to the bar, poured 2 glasses of scotch. Sit with me for a minute. Olivia took the glass and settled onto the leather sofa, hyper-aware of Dante sitting beside her, close enough to feel the heat of his body. Are you afraid? He asked. Of tomorrow? Or of everything after? Either. Both. Olivia considered lying, then discarded the impulse. Dante appreciated honesty even when it was uncomfortable. I'm terrified. Not of you exactly, but of becoming someone I don't recognize, of losing myself in whatever role I'm supposed to play as your wife. You think marriage will erase you? I think powerful men have a way of swallowing the people around them, even when they don't mean to. Dante swirled his scotch, considering. My mother told me something once. She said the strongest marriages aren't about one person consuming the other. They're about 2 people building something neither could create alone. Partnership, not possession. Is that what you want, partnership? I want someone I can trust. Someone who's smart enough to understand the game and strong enough not to break under pressure. He met her eyes. I think you're that person, but I need you to believe it too. And the scotch burned going down, warming Olivia from the inside. What if I can't be what you need? Then we figure it out. This arrangement works because we're both honest about what it is. That doesn't mean it can't evolve. Dante set down his glass. Get some sleep, Olivia. Tomorrow changes everything. She left him sitting in the dark and retreated to her room, where the wedding dress hung like a ghost in her closet. Olivia touched the silk, feeling the weight of it, the reality of what morning would bring. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Last chance to run. You don't have to do this. Olivia deleted it without responding. Whoever had sent it, Victoria, Isabel, some well-meaning stranger who'd heard about the wedding, they didn't understand. Running meant prison. Running meant losing everything her father had left her. Running meant 6 more years of invisibility and Victoria's cruelty. She turned off her phone and climbed into bed, willing sleep to come. Morning arrived too quickly. Olivia woke to Maria knocking, followed by a team of people who transformed her into something bridal. Hair swept up in an elegant twist, makeup subtle but flawless. The dress fitted perfectly to her frame. When they were done, Olivia barely recognized herself in the mirror. Beautiful, Maria said, genuine warmth in her voice. Mr. Moretti is a lucky man. I'm the lucky one. He's rescuing me from federal prison. Perhaps. But you're giving him something he needs too. Don't underestimate your value in this arrangement. Maria handed her a bouquet of white roses and orchids. It's time. The rose garden at the Fairmont was small, private, transformed into something magical with white flowers and trailing ivy. 30 chairs held the assembled guests, mostly Moretti family members Olivia had never met, plus Victoria and Isabel sitting in the back row looking like they'd been forced to attend an execution. And there, at the front, stood Dante in a tailored black tuxedo that made him look like every dangerous fantasy Olivia had never let herself have. His expression when he saw her was carefully neutral, but something flickered in his eyes that might have been appreciation. The ceremony itself was brief. A judge Dante knew performed the service, speaking words about commitment and partnership that felt simultaneously meaningful and hollow. Olivia repeated her vows in a voice that didn't shake, sliding a platinum band onto Dante's finger while he did the same to hers. "You may kiss the bride," the judge said. Dante's hand cupped her face, tilting it up, and his kiss was different than the performance at Isabel's party. This one lasted longer, pressed deeper, sent heat spiraling through Olivia's chest in a way that had nothing to do with transaction and everything to do with the fundamental chemistry of two people who fit together unexpectedly well. When they separated, applause rippled through the garden. Teresa was crying, happy tears, Olivia realized. Victoria looked like she'd swallowed glass. They signed papers. Olivia Chen became Olivia Moretti with a signature that felt like stepping off a cliff into unknown territory. The reception was elegant, intimate, nothing like the spectacle Isabel's wedding would undoubtedly be. Olivia made conversation with Dante's relatives, aunts and uncles who welcomed her warmly, cousins who assessed her with friendly curiosity, business associates who treated her with newfound respect. During dinner, Victoria cornered her near the champagne fountain. "Enjoy this while it lasts," Victoria said, her voice low and venomous. "You think you've won? You're just another asset in his portfolio. When he's done with you, you'll have nothing. When he's done with me, I'll have my trust fund, half our marital assets, and enough money to never think about you again." Olivia smiled. "You taught me something valuable, Victoria. You taught me that survival matters more than pride. I'm very good at surviving." "You little bitch! Is there a problem?" Dante appeared beside Olivia, his presence immediately changing the dynamic. Victoria's expression smoothed. "Not at all. Just sharing family memories." "I'm sure." Dante's arm slid around Olivia's waist, warm and possessive. "If you'll excuse us, my wife and I have other guests to attend to." My wife. The word sent something complicated through Olivia's chest, not quite pleasure, not quite fear, something in between. They danced, a slow waltz that required Olivia to follow Dante's lead, trusting him to guide her through steps she barely knew. His hand was firm on her back, steadying her when she stumbled. "You're doing fine," he murmured. "Stop thinking so much." "That's easy for you to say. You're not the one who just married a stranger." "Neither are you. We've spent 3 days together. I know you take your coffee black, you pick at food when you're nervous, you have a tell when you're lying, your right eye twitches fractionally. You prefer actions to words, silence to small talk, and you're far more observant than you let people believe." He spun her gently. "Not strangers. Maybe not friends yet, but not strangers." The song ended. Teresa claimed Dante for a dance, leaving Olivia standing at the edge of the floor. Isabel materialized beside her, champagne in hand and malice in her eyes. "Congratulations, sister. You've landed yourself quite a catch." "Thank you, Isabel." "I do wonder how long it'll last. Men like Dante Moretti don't stay interested in plain little mice for very long." Isabel's smile was sharp. "When he gets bored, you'll be right back where you started, invisible and irrelevant." Olivia turned to face her stepsister fully. "You stole $250,000 and framed me for it. You thought you could destroy me and take everything my father left. But you miscalculated. Because your theft brought Dante into my life, and now I have protection you can never touch." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "So thank you, Isabel. Your cruelty gave me exactly the escape I needed." Isabel's face flushed red. "You can't prove I did anything." "I don't need to prove it. Dante knows. His lawyers know. And that knowledge keeps you in check because one wrong move and he buries you." Olivia smiled. "Sleep well on your wedding night with Marcus, Isabel. I certainly intend to enjoy mine." She walked away before Isabel could respond, feeling something like power coursing through her veins for the first time in 6 years. The reception wound down as afternoon stretched toward evening. Guests departed with well wishes and knowing smiles. Victoria and Isabel left without saying goodbye, which suited Olivia perfectly. Finally, It was just Olivia and Dante, standing in the rose garden as staff cleared tables and packed decorations. "Ready to go home?" Dante asked. Home. The penthouse that was now officially hers too, the space they would share as husband and wife. "Yes," Olivia said. "I'm ready." The car ride was quiet. Dante made calls, business that apparently couldn't wait even on his wedding day. Olivia watched San Francisco slide past, thinking about how different the city looked now that she had a different name, a different status, a different life. At the penthouse, Maria had left champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries with a note. "Congratulations to the happy couple." Olivia kicked off her heels, feeling the marble floor cool against her feet. The wedding dress suddenly felt too tight, too heavy, too much like a costume she couldn't wait to shed. "I need to change," she said. "Wait." Dante moved behind her, his fingers finding the tiny buttons running down her spine. "Let me help." His touch was professional, efficient, nothing seductive about the way he worked each button free. But Olivia felt hyper-aware of every point of contact, every brush of his fingers against her skin. When the last button came undone, the dress loosened and she held it against her chest. "Thank you." "You're welcome." But Dante didn't step away immediately. His hand rested on her shoulder, warm through the thin silk of her undergarments. "You did well today. I know this wasn't easy." Olivia turned to face him, clutching the dress. "Neither was it for you. You're stuck with me for 2 years minimum." "I chose you. That's different than being stuck." His dark eyes held hers. "This marriage is real, Olivia. Legally binding, financially integrated, publicly acknowledged. The circumstances of how we got here don't change what it is." "What is it exactly?" "An arrangement that benefits us both. But also," he paused, seeming to choose words carefully, "a partnership. You're not just a name on paper to me. You're my wife. That means something in my world." "What does it mean?" "It means I protect what's mine. It means anyone who threatens you threatens me. It means you have the full weight of the Moretti family standing behind you." Dante's hand moved from her shoulder to her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "And it means I keep my promises. I promised you 2 years in freedom. You'll get both. But while you're here, you're not invisible anymore. You're seen." The word landed in Olivia's chest like a stone dropping into still water, sending ripples outward. Seen. Not ignored, not diminished, not treated like background decoration in someone else's life. "I don't know how to be seen," she whispered. "You learn." Dante's smile was slight, almost gentle. "Starting now." He kissed her then, not for cameras or witnesses, not for show or performance, but because they were married and alone, and something had shifted between them that neither could quite name. Olivia's hands released the dress, letting it pool at her feet as she reached for him, threading her fingers into his hair and kissing him back with 6 years of suppressed longing for connection, for touch, for proof that she existed as more than shadow. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This is your choice," he said quietly. "We can continue or we can stop. Either way, nothing changes between us. The arrangement stands regardless." Olivia looked at this man who'd married her for business reasons, who'd offered her escape from prison and protection from enemies, who'd given her a ring and a name and a future she'd never imagined having. "I don't want to stop," she said. Dante's smile was quick, heated. "Good, neither do I." He lifted her easily, carrying her down the hall to his room. Not hers, his, a space she'd never entered. The bedroom was dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city that glittered below them like scattered diamonds. He set her on the bed and stepped back, giving her space to change her mind. Olivia reached for him instead, pulling him down to her, deciding in that moment that if she was going to wear this man's name, she might as well discover what else came with it. Their wedding night was nothing like the clinical transaction she'd expected. Dante was attentive, careful, taking time to learn what made her gasp and shiver. Olivia discovered that invisibility had kept her from understanding her own capacity for want, for pleasure, for the simple human need to be touched like she mattered. Afterward, lying in tangled sheets with Dante's arm heavy across her waist, Olivia stared at the ceiling and tried to process the day. She'd woken as Olivia Chen, invisible and afraid. She'd become Olivia Moretti through vows that were supposed to be hollow. But lying in the dark with her husband's breath warm against her shoulder, Olivia wondered if maybe the arrangement was already becoming something neither of them had planned for, something that felt dangerously close to real. Olivia woke to unfamiliar warmth and the sound of the city 40 floors below. Sunlight streamed through windows she'd forgotten to cover, illuminating a room that wasn't hers and a life that felt borrowed. Dante's side of the bed was empty, sheets cool to the touch, suggesting he'd been gone for hours. She found a note on the nightstand in sharp, precise handwriting. Meeting downtown, back by lunch. Maria left breakfast in the kitchen. Make yourself at home. D. Make yourself at home. As if that were simple. As if she could simply claim space in this penthouse, in this marriage, in this carefully constructed arrangement that had turned unexpectedly intimate somewhere between vows and morning light. Olivia pulled on the robe hanging in Dante's closet, his scent still clinging to the fabric, and ventured into the kitchen, where Maria had indeed left a spread worthy of a hotel. Coffee, pastries, fruit, yogurt, arranged with the precision of someone who understood presentation mattered. She was halfway through her second cup of coffee when her phone rang, an unknown number, which usually meant trouble. Hello? Mrs. Moretti? The voice was male, unfamiliar, carrying the kind of smooth professionalism that suggested expensive legal representation. My name is Robert Chen. I'm your father's brother. Olivia's hand tightened on the phone. Her father had mentioned a brother once, years ago, but they'd been estranged. Some family rift that James had never fully explained. I don't understand. Why are you calling? Because I heard about your marriage, and because I need to tell you something about your father's estate that Victoria has been hiding from you. Robert's voice dropped. Can we meet? Today, if possible. This can't be discussed over the phone. Every instinct screamed trap. Victoria had 6 years to plant landmines, and family members appearing from nowhere seemed exactly like her style. I need to speak with my husband first. Of course. But Mrs. Moretti, please, this concerns money that's rightfully yours. Money Victoria has been stealing since your father died. If you want the truth, meet me at Cafe Bellini at 2 o'clock. Come alone. The line went dead before Olivia could respond. She sat staring at her phone, trying to process this new complication. An uncle she'd never met, claiming Victoria had stolen more than Olivia knew about, demanding a private meeting. It sounded like precisely the kind of scheme Dante had warned her about. People trying to use her as leverage, to exploit her newness to his world. But what if it was real? Olivia called Dante. He answered on the second ring, traffic noise in the background. What's wrong? How do you know something's wrong? Because you never call me. His voice carried dry amusement. What happened? Olivia explained the call, Robert's claims, the request for a meeting. Dante was silent for several seconds. It could be legitimate, he said finally. James Chen did have a younger brother. They had a falling out over the family business before James married your mother. Robert moved to Los Angeles, started his own import company. They hadn't spoken in 20 years when your father died. How do you know that? I know everything about your family, Olivia. I told you, I don't make decisions without research. She heard him speaking to someone else, muffled instructions. Don't go to that meeting alone. I'll meet you there at 2. If Robert has information, he can share it with both of us. He said to come alone. I don't care what he said. You're my wife. That means you don't walk into potential traps without backup. His tone softened slightly. Trust me on this. Please. The please surprised her. Dante didn't seem like a man who said please often. Okay, I'll wait for you. Good, I'll be home in an hour. We'll talk strategy. Olivia spent the next hour researching Robert Chen online. He existed, import business in Los Angeles, moderately successful, no obvious red flags or criminal history. Photos showed a man who looked like her father might have if he'd lived another 20 years. Same eyes, same serious expression. Dante arrived precisely an hour later, still wearing his meeting suit but with his tie loosened and tension evident in his shoulders. Long morning? Olivia asked as he poured himself coffee. The property deal is getting complicated. The seller wants additional assurances about my intentions for the land. Dante leaned against the counter, studying her. But that's my problem. Let's focus on yours. Tell me everything Robert said. Exact words. Olivia recounted the conversation. Dante listened without interrupting, his expression growing thoughtful. Victoria stealing from your father's estate makes sense, he said when she finished. She had access to his accounts, knowledge of his assets, and 6 years to move money around before you turn 25. If Robert has proof, it could be leverage we can use. Or it could be a scheme to extort money from us. Also possible, which is why we go together, listen to what he has to say, and verify everything before committing to anything. Dante set down his coffee. Change into something professional, but not expensive. We want to look successful, but not flashy. And bring your father's death certificate and will. We'll need them if Robert's claims have merit. Café Bellini occupied a corner in the financial district, the kind of place where deals happened over espresso and handshakes sealed fortunes. Olivia and Dante arrived 10 minutes early, claiming a table near the back with sightlines to all entrances. Robert Chen arrived exactly at 2, looking older than his photos suggested. He spotted Olivia immediately. The family resemblance was unmistakable, and his expression shifted from cautious hope to concern when he saw Dante. Mrs. Moretti? Robert extended his hand as he reached their table. And Mr. Moretti, I asked your niece to come alone. My wife doesn't go anywhere alone when strangers make cryptic phone calls, Dante said mildly. Sit. Tell us what you know. Robert sat slowly, assessing Dante with the wariness of a man who recognized danger. I suppose you know who I am. James Chen's younger brother, estranged for 2 decades over a business dispute. You moved to Los Angeles, built your own import company, and had no contact with James before his death. Dante's voice was neutral. What I don't know is why you're contacting his daughter now. Because I just found out Victoria has been systematically looting the estate James left for Olivia. Robert pulled out a folder, spreading documents across the table. I hired a forensic accountant after I heard about the marriage. James and I might have been estranged, but he was still my brother. I wanted to make sure Olivia was protected. Olivia leaned forward, scanning the documents. Bank statements, transaction records, property transfers, all dated within months of her father's death. James left you more than the $2 million in the trust fund, Robert said quietly. He left you $5 million total, $3 million in the trust that Victoria controls, and another $2 million in property, specifically a commercial building in Soma that he owned outright. Victoria transferred that property to her name 6 months after James died, claiming he'd verbally promised it to her before his death. The betrayal shouldn't have surprised Olivia, but seeing it documented, Victoria's calculated theft, the forgery of transfer documents, the systematic erasure of her father's wishes, made her chest tight with rage. The building is worth how much now? Dante asked, already doing calculations. Current market value? $8 million, conservatively. James bought it in the 90s when Soma was worthless. Now it's prime real estate. Robert looked at Olivia. Victoria has been collecting rent from commercial tenants for 6 years. That's another $1 million minimum that should have gone to you. Can we prove the transfer was fraudulent? Olivia's voice was steady despite the fury building behind her ribs. That's the problem. The transfer documents look legitimate. Victoria had lawyers draft everything properly. Challenging it would require proving James never made that verbal promise, which is nearly impossible. Robert's expression was grim. Unless we can prove a pattern of fraud and theft that establishes her character and intent. Dante and Olivia exchanged glances. The embezzlement. Isabel's theft that Victoria had undoubtedly known about, possibly orchestrated. We might have something, Dante said slowly, but it would require cooperation and discretion on your end. Robert listened as Dante explained about Isabel's embezzlement, the forged signatures, the shell companies in Olivia's name. His expression darkened with each detail. So Victoria didn't just steal from Olivia directly. She raised a daughter who learned to steal and frame her stepsister for it. Robert's hands clenched on the table. James would be devastated. James is dead, Olivia said quietly. And Victoria has been counting on me being too afraid and isolated to fight back. But I'm not isolated anymore. No, Dante agreed. You're not. Robert, if we pursue this legally, can your accountant testify about the property transfer irregularities? Absolutely, and I have copies of James's original will, the one filed before he married Victoria. It clearly states his intention to leave the Soma property to Olivia. Robert met Olivia's eyes. I'm sorry I wasn't there after he died. I should have checked on you, made sure Victoria wasn't. You didn't know me. We'd never met. You owed me nothing. Olivia's voice was firm. But you're here now. That matters. They spent another hour reviewing documents, building a timeline of Victoria's theft. Robert had been thorough, bank records showing unexplained transfers, property tax documents revealing ownership changes, rental income reports that should have gone to Olivia's trust but disappeared into Victoria's accounts instead. This is enough for a civil suit, Dante said finally. Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, conversion of assets. We can file this week. Victoria will fight, Robert warned. She has resources, connections, expensive lawyers. So do I. Dante's smile was cold. And unlike Victoria, I don't lose. They left the cafe with Robert's evidence secured in Dante's briefcase. In the car, Olivia stared out the window, processing everything. You're quiet, Dante observed. I'm calculating how much of my life Victoria stole. Not just money, time, opportunities, the education I could have had, the freedom I should have been able to claim at 18 instead of 25. Olivia's jaw clenched. She took everything and made me feel grateful for scraps. And now you take it back, with interest. Dante's hand found hers, squeezing gently. This is what I meant about protection. You're not fighting alone anymore. Back at the penthouse, Dante immediately called his lawyers. Olivia listened as he outlined the situation with clinical precision, demanding action plans and timeline projections. When he finally hung up, his expression was satisfied. We filed the civil suit on Monday. Richard thinks we can get a temporary restraining order preventing Victoria from selling or transferring any assets until the case resolves. He's also going to petition for a full forensic audit of your father's estate. How long will this take? Months. Maybe a year. Victoria will drag it out as long as possible. Dante poured them both wine. But the outcome is certain. The evidence is overwhelming. She'll either settle or lose in court. Either way, you get your property back. Olivia accepted the wine, her mind already racing ahead. What happens to Victoria when she loses? Depends on how aggressive we want to be. At minimum, she loses the property and has to pay restitution for the rental income. At maximum, we pursue criminal fraud charges, and she faces prison time. The thought of Victoria in prison should have been satisfying. Instead, Olivia felt oddly empty. I don't want revenge, she said slowly. I want justice. I want my property back, the money she stole, acknowledgement that what she did was wrong. But sending her to prison doesn't give me anything except the satisfaction of watching her suffer. And I don't want to become someone who finds satisfaction in that. Dante studied her for a long moment. You're better than she deserves. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of letting her take up space in my head. Olivia sipped her wine. She's already lost, Dante. I have everything she wanted. Money, status, a powerful husband who actually protects me. Making her suffer more doesn't change what I have. It just makes me more like her. So we pursue the civil case, get your assets back, and let Victoria live with the consequences of her choices. Yes. All right. Dante raised his glass. To justice without cruelty. Olivia clinked her glass against his, feeling something settle in her chest. This was who she wanted to be. Someone who fought for what was right without becoming cruel in the process. Someone her father would have been proud of. The next week passed in a blur of legal activity. Papers were filed. Victoria received notice of the lawsuit and, according to Maria's intelligence network, responded with predictable fury. She hired 3 different law firms, all of whom reviewed the evidence and quietly advised her to settle. Olivia watched it unfold from the safety of Dante's world, attending charity events on his arm and learning to navigate the social landscape of San Francisco's elite. People who'd ignored her at Isabel's engagement party now sought her attention, angling for introductions to Dante through proximity to his wife. It was surreal, being visible, being important simply because she wore Dante's ring and name. 2 weeks after the wedding, Dante came home with news that changed everything. The property seller agreed to my terms, he announced, loosening his tie as he entered the penthouse. We close on the Soma development next month. Olivia looked up from the book she'd been reading. That's the deal you needed the wife for? That's the one. $50 million purchase, another $100 million in development costs over 3 years. Dante poured himself scotch. And now I need to tell you what I'm actually building. He pulled out architectural plans, spreading them across the dining table. Olivia moved closer, studying the detailed drawings. This isn't residential development, she said slowly. No, it's a community center. 20,000 square feet of space dedicated to job training, childcare, legal aid, healthcare services, and temporary housing for families in crisis. Dante's finger traced the layout. The ground floor is medical and dental clinics, free services for anyone who needs them. Second floor is classrooms for GED programs, vocational training, ESL courses. Third floor is legal aid, immigration lawyers, tenant rights advocates, family law specialists. Fourth floor is emergency housing, 20 units for families escaping domestic violence or homelessness. Olivia stared at the plans, then at Dante. This is what you needed $50 million for? To build a charity? To build a legacy that means something. Dante's voice was quiet, but intense. My father died young. My mother raised me alone because no one would help her. No childcare, no job training, no legal protection when landlords tried to exploit her. She survived through pure determination and luck. Most people don't have that much luck. So you're building the support system your mother never had. I'm building the support system a lot of people never have. San Francisco is expensive, hostile to anyone without resources. This center gives people a fighting chance. He looked at her. The seller was traditional, conservative. He wanted to know the property would be used to help families, to build community. A married man with stable family values was more credible than a bachelor with my reputation. Understanding crystallized in Olivia's mind. You didn't just need any wife. You needed someone who would understand why this matters. Someone who knows what it's like to need help and have nowhere to turn. Yes, Dante's expression was unguarded in a way she'd never seen. I researched you before that engagement party, Olivia. I knew about Victoria's abuse, the storage room, the way you'd been systematically erased from your own life. I knew you'd understand what this center represents because you've lived the kind of powerlessness it's designed to address. So this was never just about convenience. No, this was about finding someone who would appreciate what I'm trying to build. Someone who wouldn't see it as charity or tax shelter or publicity stunt. Dante's hand covered hers on the architectural plans. Someone who would understand that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is protect people who can't protect themselves. Olivia looked at the plans again, seeing them differently now. The medical clinics that could have helped her father if he'd caught his heart condition earlier. The legal aid that could have protected her from Victoria's theft. The emergency housing that represented safety for people with nowhere else to go. I want to help, she said. Help how? With the center. Planning services, coordinating programs, whatever you need. Olivia met his eyes. You married me partly because I understand what it's like to need help, so let me use that understanding to actually help people. Dante was quiet for a moment, studying her. You're serious. Completely serious. I have time, resources, and personal experience. I should use them for something meaningful. It would mean meetings, site visits, coordination with nonprofits and service providers. Real work, not just ceremonial ribbon cutting. Good. I want real work. Olivia's voice was firm. I've spent 6 years being ornamental. I'm done with that. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Respect, perhaps, or recognition that she was more than he'd initially calculated. All right, he said. You're in. Maria will add you to the project meetings starting next week. They spent the rest of the evening reviewing plans, discussing programs, debating service priorities. Dante had clearly been thinking about this for years, and his vision was comprehensive. Not just temporary assistance, but long-term support that could actually change lives. Around midnight, Olivia looked up from program budgets to find Dante watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? Nothing. Just thinking that I made a better choice than I realized. With the property? With you. He closed the folder he'd been reviewing. Come to bed. We can continue this tomorrow. In the 3 weeks since their wedding, they'd settled into a routine that blurred the lines of their arrangement. Most nights, Olivia slept in Dante's room because it felt natural, because the distance of separate bedrooms seemed artificial when everything else between them had become unexpectedly real. She was learning him. The scar on his shoulder from a knife fight he wouldn't discuss. The way he woke at 3 a.m. to check security reports. His preference for silence in the morning and conversation at night. He was learning her too. Her nightmares about Victoria, her habit of reading when she couldn't sleep. The way she needed space to process emotions before discussing them. They were becoming partners in ways the prenuptial agreement had never anticipated. A month after the wedding, Victoria's lawyers contacted Dante's team with a settlement offer. She would return the Soma property plus $2 million in restitution for rental income. In exchange, Olivia would sign a non-disclosure agreement about Victoria's theft and drop all claims. "It's a good offer," Richard Walsh said during the conference call. "You get everything you wanted without a protracted legal battle." Olivia looked at Dante, who was watching her with careful neutrality, letting her make this choice. "I want one addition," Olivia said. "Victoria has to publicly apologize. Not privately, not in sealed court documents. A public statement acknowledging she misappropriated my inheritance and expressing regret for her actions." "She'll never agree to that," Richard said immediately. "Public admission opens her to social consequences, damages her reputation. Then we go to trial." Olivia's voice was calm. "I don't need her to grovel. I need her to admit on record that she was wrong, that I wasn't invisible or worthless or deserving of what she did. One public statement, that's my price for settlement." Richard sighed. "I'll communicate the terms." 2 days later, Victoria agreed. The statement appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle, buried in the society pages where her friends would see it. Victoria Chen wishes to clarify matters regarding her late husband's estate. Through misunderstanding and poor legal advice, she inadvertently transferred property meant for her stepdaughter, Olivia Chen Moretti. This error has been corrected, and she regrets any distress caused to Olivia during this period. It was carefully worded, barely an apology, full of face-saving language. But it was public, it was permanent, and it was Victoria admitting she'd been wrong. Olivia read it 3 times, then set down the newspaper. "How do you feel?" Dante asked. "Free," Olivia said, and realized it was true. The Soma property transferred back to Olivia's name on a Tuesday morning in late October, exactly 6 weeks after her wedding. She stood in the lawyer's office signing documents that restored what should have been hers all along, and felt the final chains of Victoria's control snap and fall away. "Congratulations, Mrs. Moretti," Richard Walsh said, sliding the deed across the mahogany desk. "You now own one of the most valuable commercial properties in San Francisco." Olivia stared at her name printed on official paper. Olivia Chen Moretti, owner. Not her father's daughter anymore, not Victoria's victim, but her own person with assets and agency and a future she controlled. "What happens to the current tenants?" she asked. "They have existing leases through next year. After that, you can renegotiate terms or find new tenants." Richard consulted his notes. Current rental income is approximately $90,000 per month. Not bad passive income. $90,000 per month. More money than Olivia had ever imagined having access to, coming in automatically simply because her father had been smart enough to buy property in the right location. Dante, who'd been silent through the proceedings, finally spoke. "Actually, those leases might need to be terminated early. I'm going to need that building." Olivia turned to him. "For what?" "For the community center. The property I bought is adjacent to yours. If we combine them, we can double the facility size, expand services, add more housing units, create a proper childcare center." He met her eyes. "But only if you're willing to sell. Your property, your choice." The offer hung in the air between them. Olivia could keep the building, collect rental income, build wealth passively while doing nothing. Or she could contribute to something that would actually help people, that would honor her father's memory better than any trust fund ever could. "How much would you pay?" she asked. "Current market value, $8 million. "And if I just gave it to you? As a donation to the project?" Dante's expression shifted. "That would be a substantial financial sacrifice. It would also be the right thing to do. You're building something that matters. I want to be part of that, not just ceremonially, but actually." Olivia looked at the deed again. "My father made his money helping people trade goods across borders. He believed business could be a force for good if you did it right. This feels like continuing his work." "Olivia, $8 million is is less important than building something meaningful. Besides, I still have my trust fund, and according to our prenuptial agreement, half of whatever assets we accumulate during our marriage. She smiled slightly. So technically, I'd own half of the community center anyway. Richard cleared his throat. Mrs. Moretti, I'd advise careful consideration before donating property worth. I've considered it. Drop the donation paperwork. Olivia's voice was firm. And make sure it's structured so the center maintains the property permanently. I don't want it sold or repurposed if the project ever ends. Dante studied her with an intensity that made her skin warm. You're sure about this? Completely sure. Richard looked between them, recognized he was outmatched, and sighed. I'll have the documents ready by Friday. Outside the lawyer's office, Dante caught Olivia's hand, pulling her to a stop on the sidewalk. That was incredibly generous, he said quietly. That was strategic. You married me partly because you needed someone who understood what you're building. Well, now I'm invested literally as well as emotionally. We're partners in this. Partners. Dante's thumb brushed across her knuckles. I'm starting to think we're partners in more than just property development. The words sent warmth through Olivia's chest. In the 6 weeks since their wedding, something had shifted between them, the transactional arrangement evolving into genuine partnership, the careful distance collapsing into intimacy that felt less like convenience and more like choice. Are you saying our business arrangement is becoming personal, Mr. Moretti? I'm saying I didn't expect to actually like you, or respect you, or want to come home early from meetings just to hear about your day. His expression was unguarded, vulnerable in a way she'd rarely seen. I'm saying the 2-year timeline is starting to feel arbitrary. Olivia's breath caught. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop pretending this is purely transactional. I'm suggesting we acknowledge that somewhere between the wedding and now, this became real. Dante stepped closer, his free hand cupping her face. I'm suggesting that I'm falling for my wife, which was never part of the plan, but seems to be happening anyway. The confession hung between them like a held breath. Olivia searched his face for signs of manipulation, calculation, anything that suggested this was another angle in whatever game powerful men played. She found only honesty, raw and slightly uncomfortable, as if Dante was admitting something he hadn't meant to feel. I'm falling too, she whispered. I didn't want to. I told myself this was just survival, just pragmatic choice. But somewhere between your mother's kitchen and the community center plans and you asking my opinion instead of just making decisions, she paused, finding words for feelings she'd been avoiding. Somewhere in there, I stopped being your convenient wife and started being just your wife. And I don't know what to do with that. Neither do I. Dante's smile was crooked, almost boyish. But I think we figure it out together. He kissed her there on the sidewalk outside the lawyer's office, in full view of passing strangers and the security detail that shadowed their movements. It was different than the wedding kiss, different than the careful intimacy of their nights together. This kiss felt like a promise neither of them had planned to make, but both were ready to keep. When they separated, Olivia felt lighter than she had in years. So what happens now? Now we go home, and then we go to the property site. I want you to see what we're building. Dante's eyes gleamed with something like excitement. If you're donating $8 million, you should understand exactly where it's going. The combined properties occupied a full city block in Soma, currently home to a dilapidated warehouse and Olivia's commercial building with its outdated tenants. Dante walked her through the space, describing his vision with the passion of someone who'd been planning this for years. Medical clinic here, with dental on the mezzanine level. Free services, but we'll also bill insurance for patients who have it. That revenue helps sustain operations. He pointed to an open area. Childcare center there. Full-day programs for working parents, early intervention services for kids who need extra support. My mother had to leave me alone when she worked night shifts. No kid should have to grow up like that. Olivia listened as he described job training programs, legal aid services, emergency housing units designed to give families breathing room while they rebuilt their lives. Every detail reflected careful thought about how to actually help people rather than just appear charitable. What about staff? She asked. This will require doctors, lawyers, social workers, childcare providers. How do we afford that? Combination of grant funding, volunteer professionals, and endowment income. I'm putting 20 million into an endowment that generates operating revenue. With good management, it should sustain basic operations indefinitely. Dante paused. And I'm hoping you'll help recruit volunteer professionals. You have connections now, society contacts, charity boards, wealthy people looking for meaningful ways to give back. Put them to work. The idea sparked something in Olivia's mind. I could host a fundraiser, not just for money, but for commitments. Doctors agreeing to volunteer hours, lawyers signing up for pro bono work, companies donating supplies. Make it social. Make it prestigious to be involved. You want to throw a party to recruit volunteers? I want to leverage the world you've given me access to. All those people who suddenly care what I think because I'm your wife? Let's make them put their money and time where their social climbing is. Olivia's smile was sharp. Victoria taught me how society works. I might as well use that education for something productive. Dante laughed, genuine and surprised. You're brilliant. Do it. Maria can help with logistics. They spent the rest of the afternoon walking the property, discussing possibilities, refining plans. When Olivia's feet started aching from walking on uneven floors and heels, Dante lifted her effortlessly, carrying her back to the car while she protested and laughed. I can walk. I know, but this is faster. He set her in the car with unexpected gentleness. And I like carrying you. That's very caveman of you. You married a dangerous man, remember? Caveman tendencies come with the territory. The drive home was comfortable, easy in a way their early interactions never had been. Olivia found herself talking about ideas for the fundraiser, getting excited about programs they could expand with proper support. Dante listened, occasionally offering suggestions, mostly just letting her plan. Back at the penthouse, they found Maria waiting with urgent news. Isabel's wedding is this Saturday, Maria announced without preamble. Victoria sent an invitation. She's expecting both of you to attend. Olivia and Dante exchanged glances. The wedding Isabel had been planning when Olivia was still serving drinks and sleeping in a storage room. The celebration of Isabel's triumph that had somehow become overshadowed by Olivia's unexpected transformation. Do we have to go? Olivia asked. Strategically, yes, Maria said. Not attending looks petty. Attending shows confidence and grace. You're above their attempts to hurt you. She consulted her tablet. Plus, half of San Francisco society will be there. Good opportunity to start recruiting volunteers for the community center. Maria makes an excellent point, Dante said. We attend, we smile, we demonstrate that Victoria and Isabel have zero power over you anymore. Then we work the room for commitments. Olivia thought about seeing Isabel walk down the aisle to Marcus Rothwell, claiming the society wedding she'd always wanted. Thought about Victoria playing proud mother, pretending the public apology and property return had never happened. Thought about sitting through all of it while maintaining composure. Fine, we go, but I'm wearing something spectacular, and you're staying by my side the entire time. Deal. Dante kissed her forehead. Maria, make sure my wife has something that makes every woman in that church jealous. Maria's smile was knowing. Already on it. The dress Maria produced was a masterpiece. Deep sapphire silk that brought out Olivia's eyes, fitted perfectly to her frame, elegant without being ostentatious. Paired with the diamond necklace Dante gave her that morning and her wedding rings, Olivia looked like exactly what she was, a woman who'd transcended her circumstances and built something better. The wedding took place at Grace Cathedral because, of course, Victoria would insist on the most prestigious venue in San Francisco. Olivia and Dante arrived fashionably late, making an entrance that had heads turning and whispers rippling through the assembled guests. They found seats near the back, close enough to be seen, far enough to avoid extended interaction with Victoria. Olivia recognized faces from her engagement party, people who'd looked through her when she was serving drinks, and now smiled and nodded respectfully. The ceremony itself was excessive. Too many flowers, too many attendants, too much everything, in a way that suggested Isabel was trying to prove something. Marcus looked uncomfortable in his tuxedo, sweating despite the cathedral's cool air. Isabel looked triumphant, beautiful in a wedding dress that probably cost more than most cars. When the priest asked if anyone objected to the union, Olivia felt Dante's hand squeeze hers gently. She squeezed back, a silent acknowledgement that they were both thinking about their own wedding, simpler, smaller, born from necessity, but becoming something real. The reception happened at the Fairmont, the same hotel where Olivia's life had changed 2 months ago. Walking through the lobby brought memories flooding back. Dante's offer, her desperate choice, the moment everything shifted. "You okay?" Dante murmured as they entered the ballroom. "Better than okay. I'm remembering how far I've come." The reception was everything Isabel had probably dreamed of. Champagne fountains, elaborate centerpieces, a 12-piece orchestra. Victoria held court near the head table, accepting congratulations and basking in reflected glory. Olivia and Dante worked the room systematically. She'd learned from watching Dante at events over the past weeks how to read people, how to identify who had real influence versus who just pretended, how to turn small talk into meaningful commitments. "Dr. Morrison," Olivia said, approaching a woman she recognized from hospital charity boards. "I'm Olivia Moretti. I wanted to discuss a project my husband and I are developing, a community health center in Soma offering free medical services. We're looking for volunteer physicians to donate a few hours monthly. Would that interest you?" Dr. Morrison's eyes lit up. "Actually, yes. I've been looking for more meaningful pro bono work. Tell me more." By the time dinner was served, Olivia had collected business cards from 3 doctors, 2 lawyers, a corporate foundation director, and a child care specialist. Dante watched her work with obvious pride, occasionally stepping in to provide details about the facility or financials. Victoria finally cornered them near the dessert table, her smile fixed and brittle. "Olivia, how generous of you to attend your sister's wedding." "Stepsister," Olivia corrected gently. "And it's my pleasure. Isabel looks beautiful." "She does, doesn't she? Though I hear you've been quite busy yourself. Community centers and charity work, how philanthropic." Victoria's tone suggested she found it anything but admirable. "Olivia is an excellent partner," Dante said smoothly. "She has vision I didn't anticipate." "I'm sure." Victoria's gaze flicked to Olivia's necklace, her rings, the dress that screamed expensive taste. "You've certainly landed well. I hope you appreciate what you have." "I appreciate everything," Olivia said, "including the lessons you taught me about resilience and strategy. You showed me how to survive in hostile territory. I'm just applying those skills to better purposes." Victoria's smile froze. Before she could respond, Teresa Moretti appeared, linking arms with Olivia like they'd been family for years. "There you are, daughter. I've been telling Judge Brennan about your fundraiser plans. He's very interested." Teresa smiled at Victoria with perfect politeness. "Mrs. Chen, lovely wedding. Though I think I prefer more intimate affairs, like my son's wedding. Small, meaningful, focused on what matters." The comparison was subtle but unmistakable. Victoria's jaw tightened. "How nice. If you'll excuse me, I should check on the bride." She retreated with as much dignity as she could manage. Teresa watched her go with satisfaction. "That woman has always been insufferable. I'm glad you escaped her, Olivia." Teresa patted her hand. "Now, introduce me to those doctors you've been recruiting. I want to help." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of networking and strategic conversation. Olivia found herself genuinely enjoying the reception, not because of the opulence or celebration, but because she was using Victoria's world against her, turning a space that had once excluded Olivia into a recruiting ground for something meaningful. When Isabel and Marcus cut the cake, Olivia watched from Dante's side, feeling nothing but mild pity for her stepsister. Isabel had her society wedding, her wealthy husband, the life she'd always wanted. But she'd also married a man she didn't love for money and status. A transaction without even the potential for genuine partnership. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked softly. "That I got the better deal. Isabel married for status and settled for tolerance. I married for survival and found partnership." Olivia leaned into him. "I'm thinking I'm the lucky one." "We both are." His arm tightened around her waist. "Ready to go home?" "More than ready." They said their goodbyes and slipped out before the bouquet toss, escaping into the cool San Francisco night. In the car, Olivia kicked off her heels and leaned her head on Dante's shoulder. "Thank you for coming with me. Thank you for letting me. I know that wasn't easy." "It was easier than I expected. Seeing Victoria and Isabel just made me grateful for what I have instead of angry about what they tried to take." Olivia was quiet for a moment. "Do you ever regret it? Marrying me instead of finding someone more conventional?" "Never." Dante's answer was immediate. Certain. You're exactly who I needed, Olivia. Someone real. Someone who understands that power means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who need protection. Someone who donated $8 million to a community center without hesitation because it was the right thing to do. He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. I married you to close a property deal. I'm keeping you because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Olivia's throat tightened with emotion. The 2-year timeline is irrelevant. This is real now. What we have, what we're building together, the partnership we've created, that doesn't end because a contract says it can. Dante's voice was fierce, possessive. You're mine, Olivia, not because I bought you or trapped you, but because you chose to stay. And I'm yours for exactly the same reason. She kissed him then, deep and thorough, pouring 6 weeks of growing feelings into the connection. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Olivia smiled. So we're really doing this? Real marriage, not just arrangement? We've been doing it for weeks. We're just finally admitting it. The months that followed were a whirlwind of construction, planning, and preparation. The community center began taking shape. The combined properties transformed into something beautiful and functional. Olivia threw herself into the project with focus that surprised even Maria, coordinating with contractors, meeting with service providers, hosting fundraisers that brought in both money and volunteer commitments. The launch event happened on a Saturday in March, exactly 6 months after Olivia and Dante's wedding. The center gleamed with new paint and purpose, every room designed to serve the communities who needed it most. Doctors staffed the clinic. Lawyers set up shop in the legal aid offices. Childcare providers prepared classrooms for their first students. Olivia stood in the main lobby with Dante, Teresa, Robert, and Maria, watching hundreds of people stream through the doors, some curious, some desperate, all welcomed with dignity and care. Your father would be proud, Robert said quietly, standing beside Olivia. James always believed business should help people, not just extract from them. This is his philosophy in action. It's Dante's vision, Olivia said. I just helped make it bigger. No, Dante corrected, his arm around her waist. It's our vision now. You didn't just help, you transformed it from my project into our partnership. Teresa beamed at them both. This is what marriage should be. 2 people building something neither could create alone. You've made me very proud. The center officially opened with a ribbon-cutting ceremony that made the evening news. Olivia found herself standing beside Dante in front of cameras, explaining their vision for community support and long-term sustainability. She spoke clearly, confidently, no trace of the invisible girl who'd served drinks at her stepsister's engagement party. That evening, after the crowds dispersed and the staff went home, Olivia and Dante walked through the empty center together, checking rooms and imagining the lives that would be changed within these walls. Do you remember that night at the Ashford? Dante asked, stopping in what would become the childcare center. When I gave you 3 minutes to choose? I remember thinking you were insane and dangerous, and my only option. And now? Olivia turned to face him fully. Now, I think you're still insane and dangerous, but you're also the best choice I ever made. You gave me freedom when I thought I'd lost everything. You treated me like a partner when everyone else treated me like furniture. You saw me when the world had trained me to be invisible. She stepped closer, her hands finding his. You saved me, Dante. Not from prison, from the belief that I didn't deserve better than what Victoria gave me. You saved yourself. I just gave you the tools. Dante's hands framed her face. But I'm glad I could be part of your transformation. Watching you become who you were always meant to be has been the privilege of my life. Even though you didn't sign up for any of this, the real feelings, the actual partnership, especially because of that. The deal brought us together, but what we built, that was all choice. Every day, choosing each other, choosing partnership over transaction, choosing to transform an arrangement into something real. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. I love you, Olivia. I probably started falling the moment you called our marriage convenient and refused to pretend it was anything else. But I definitely knew when you donated $8 million without hesitation because it was right. Olivia's eyes filled with tears, happy ones, for the first time in longer than she could remember. I love you too, which is terrifying and wonderful and nothing like I expected when I said yes in that hotel corridor. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? The best kind. The kind that means I'm actually living instead of just surviving. They kissed in the empty childcare center that would soon fill with children who needed safe spaces and second chances. Kissed in the building they'd created together from Dante's vision and Olivia's resources, and their shared commitment to being better than the cruelty they'd both witnessed. When they finally pulled apart, Dante smiled, genuine, warm, nothing calculated about it. Happy 6-month anniversary, Mrs. Moretti. Happy 6 months, Mr. Moretti. Here's to many more. They left the center hand in hand, walking into the San Francisco night together. Behind them, the building stood ready to welcome people who needed help, to provide services that could change lives, to be the support system neither Dante nor Olivia had fully had when they needed it most. Ahead of them stretched the future. 18 more months until their original 2-year contract ended, and then the rest of their lives to continue building the partnership that had emerged from desperation and calculation and transformed into something neither had expected. Love born from necessity, grown through choice, strengthened by shared purpose. Olivia had entered Dante's world to escape prison and Victoria's cruelty. She'd married a dangerous man in a desperate bargain that should have been purely transactional. Instead, she'd found partnership, purpose, and the kind of love that doesn't announce itself with romance and flowers, but builds slowly through late-night planning sessions and shared values, and two people choosing each other repeatedly until choice becomes commitment and commitment becomes forever. The girl who'd been invisible had become a woman who mattered, not because she'd married power, but because she'd learned to wield her own strength, to value herself as much as others should have valued her all along, to understand that true freedom comes not from escape, but from building a life worth living. And the man who'd needed a convenient wife had found an equal partner, someone who challenged him to be better, who shared his vision for using power to protect rather than exploit, who transformed his business arrangement into a marriage that meant something beyond contracts and timelines. 6 months ago, Olivia Chen had stood in a hotel corridor with 3 minutes to choose between prison and marriage to a stranger. Tonight, Olivia Moretti stood beside her husband in front of the community center they'd built together, looking toward a future she'd helped create, surrounded by evidence that sometimes the most desperate choices lead to the most unexpected joy. She had chosen survival and found love, had accepted a cage and discovered freedom, had married for escape and built a partnership that felt like coming home. And for the first time since her father died, Olivia wasn't just surviving the life she'd been given. She was living the life she'd chosen, with the partner she'd found in the most unlikely circumstances, building something that would matter long after they were gone. The invisible girl had become visible not through marriage or money, but through the simple, radical act of believing she deserved more than cruelty, more than invisibility, more than survival. She deserved love, partnership, purpose, a life that meant something. And standing beside Dante Moretti, looking at the community center that bore both their names and carried both their dreams, Olivia finally, completely, believed it.